The warning lights on the transport ship's control panel blinked red. Ji-Wan looked at the screen and saw 3 large warships blocking his path. They were Crethean vessels, each one 10 times bigger than his small cargo ship. He had been carrying supplies to the mining colonies on the edge of known space when they appeared. A voice came through the communication system. It was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. The voice spoke in broken common tongue, the language most species used for trade and diplomacy. Human vessel. You have entered Crethean territory. Turn back now or face consequences. Ji-Wan checked his navigation computer. The display showed clearly that he was in disputed space, not Crethean territory. This area had been contested for years. No single species owned it. He pressed the communication button and spoke calmly. This is human transport vessel Morning Star. I am in disputed territory, following established trade routes. I have clearance from the Galactic Commerce Authority. There was silence for a moment. Then the voice came back, angrier this time. The Crethean Empire recognizes no authority here. This space belongs to us. You will submit to inspection or be destroyed. Ji-Wan sighed. He had heard about the Cretheans. They were a warrior species, proud and aggressive. They believed strength was the only thing that mattered in the galaxy. Their empire had grown large through conquest and intimidation. But humanity was new to this part of space, and the Cretheans seemed to think they could push humans around like they did with other species. I cannot submit to an illegal inspection, Ji-Wan said. I am following proper procedures. If the Crethean Empire has a formal claim to this space, please file it with the Commerce Authority. The response was immediate. One of the warships moved forward, its weapon systems powering up. Ji-Wan felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his hand steady on the controls. He knew his little ship had no chance in a fight, but he also knew that backing down would only encourage more aggressive behavior. Your arrogance will be punished, human. Prepare to be boarded. Ji-Wan watched as a boarding craft detached from the lead warship. It was sleek and fast, designed for quick insertions. Within minutes, it had attached itself to his ship's airlock. He heard the hiss of the seal forming, then the heavy clang of the outer door opening. He stood up from his pilot's chair and walked to the airlock. He wore simple gray work clothes, nothing special. His ship was civilian, so he had no weapons except for an emergency toolkit. He waited as the inner door opened. The first thing he saw was armor. Dark green armor plates covered a massive figure that had to bend down to fit through the doorway. The Crethean was easily 8 feet tall with broad shoulders and arms as thick as tree trunks. The armor made him look even bigger. Behind him came 4 more Crethean soldiers, all armed with weapons that looked capable of tearing through walls. The lead Crethean straightened up once inside the corridor. His helmet retracted, folding back into his armor collar. Ji-Wan got his first good look at a Crethean face. It was angular and sharp with eyes that glowed faintly yellow. Thick plates of natural bone armor covered the cheekbones and forehead. The skin was gray and textured like rough leather. I am Commander Tae-Yang of the Crethean Imperial Fleet, the warrior said. His voice was the same one from the communication system. You are the human who dares to challenge our authority? I am Ji-Wan, captain of this vessel, Ji-Wan replied. He kept his voice level and respectful, but firm. I challenge no one. I simply follow the law. Tae-Yang looked down at the human. Ji-Wan was average height for his species, about 6 feet tall. Compared to the massive Crethean, he looked small and fragile. The commander's eyes narrowed as he studied the human. He saw no armor, no obvious weapons, no signs of enhanced strength or speed. The human's skin was soft and unprotected. His body looked weak, built for comfort rather than combat. Your species is unknown to me, Tae-Yang said.
How long have humans been traveling the stars?
About 200 years, Ji-Wan answered. Tae-Yang made a sound that might have been a laugh. 200 years. We have been conquering worlds for 10,000. And you dare to speak to me of law? One of the other Crethean soldiers stepped forward. This one was slightly smaller, though still huge by human standards. Commander, perhaps we should simply take what we want and leave. This creature is not worth your attention. No, Byung-ho, Tae-Yang said, not taking his eyes off Ji-Wan. This human needs to learn his place. His species needs to learn their place. He took a step closer to Ji-Wan. I am known throughout the galaxy as one of the greatest warriors alive. I have defeated champions from 50 different species. I have never lost in single combat. Ji-Wan remained still, his expression calm. He could see where this was going. I challenge you to combat, human. If you win, we will let you pass freely. If you lose, your species will know to bow before the Krethian Empire whenever we meet. Commander, Byung-ho said, concern in his voice. We know nothing of this species. Perhaps we should study them first. Look at him, Tae-yang said dismissively. Soft skin. No armor, no claws, no enhanced musculature. What is there to study? He is prey pretending to be a predator. Ji-won listened to this exchange quietly. He had encountered this attitude before. Many alien species looked at humans and saw weakness. They saw the lack of natural weapons, the relatively modest strength, the vulnerable bodies. What they did not see was what made humans dangerous. I accept your challenge, Ji-won said calmly, but we fight on neutral ground, not on either of our ships. There is an abandoned station 3,000 kilometers from here. We can meet there. Tae-yang smiled, showing sharp teeth. Agreed, we meet in 6 hours. That should give you time to prepare yourself. Pray to whatever weak gods your species worships. He turned and walked back to the airlock, his soldiers following. Within minutes, they were gone. Ji-won stood alone in his corridor. He took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Then he walked back to the cockpit and opened a communication channel to the mining colony. This is Ji-won. I am going to be delayed. Please inform Earth Command that I have accepted a challenge from a Krethian commander. Send the coordinates of the old Meridian station. The response came quickly. Are you insane? The Krethians are one of the most dangerous warrior species in the galaxy. I know, Ji-won said. That is why I accepted. Better to deal with this now than let them think they can bully every human they meet. He closed the channel and began plotting a course to the abandoned station. 6 hours would be enough time. Enough time to stretch, to warm up, and to prepare mentally for what was coming. He had been in fights before. On Earth, he had trained in multiple martial arts. He understood combat, understood how to read an opponent, how to conserve energy, how to endure. As he guided his ship toward the meeting point, Ji-won thought about Tae-yang's words. The commander had called humans prey. He had looked at Ji-won and seen weakness. That was his first mistake, but it would not be his last. The Krethian warship hummed with activity as Commander Tae-yang prepared for combat. His crew moved efficiently through the corridors, gathering information about the upcoming duel. In the command center, Byung-ho sat at a terminal, his fingers moving quickly across the holographic interface. Commander, Byung-ho called out, I have retrieved what little data exists on humans in our database. Tae-yang walked over, still wearing his armor. What does it say? Byung-ho pulled up several documents on the screen. Not much. They are a relatively new species to interstellar travel. They come from a planet they call Earth, located in what they name the Milky Way galaxy. The planet is Class 4, which means it has moderate gravity and a breathable atmosphere. Class 4, Tae-yang repeated. A comfortable world. No wonder they are soft. There is more, Byung-ho continued. Our intelligence division has intercepted some of their historical records. Humans have extensive documentation of their own wars and conflicts. They seem to fight each other frequently. Tribal warfare, Tae-yang said with a dismissive wave. Every primitive species fights among themselves before they learn discipline. Another Krethian officer approached. Her name was Minji, and she served as the tactical analyst for the fleet. She carried a datapad in her hands and looked concerned. Commander, I have analyzed the human's physiological data from our scans. There are some unusual characteristics, such as? Tae-yang asked, though he sounded uninterested. Their skeletal structure is dense but flexible. Their muscle composition shows both fast-twitch and slow-twitch fibers in roughly equal proportions. Most warrior species are heavily weighted toward fast-twitch for explosive power. Humans seem balanced. What does that mean? Byung-ho asked. Minji tapped her datapad. It means they can generate quick bursts of strength, but they also have significant endurance capabilities. Additionally, their cardiovascular system is remarkably efficient. They have something called a 4-chambered heart and a complex network of blood vessels. Every species has a heart, Tae-yang said. Yes, but human hearts are particularly effective at sustained activity. I also found something interesting in their historical records. Humans evolved as what they call persistence hunters. What is a persistence hunter? Byung-ho asked. A hunter who chases prey over long distances until the prey collapses from exhaustion. On their homeworld, humans would track animals for hours, sometimes days, never stopping until their target could no longer run. Tae-yang laughed. That is a coward's method of hunting. A true warrior faces his prey directly and defeats it with strength and skill. Perhaps, Minji said carefully, but I recommend caution. Their planet's gravity is 0.97 standard, very close to Krethia. They also have an unusually high tolerance for pain and injury. Their medical records show they can survive wounds that would kill most species. Enough, Tae Yang said firmly. You worry too much, Minji. I have seen this human. He has no armor, no weapons, no obvious advantages. The duel will be over in moments. He turned and walked toward the armory. Prepare my combat gear. We leave in 2 hours. After the commander left, Byung-ho and Minji exchanged glances. He is making a mistake, Minji said quietly. Underestimating an opponent is always dangerous. The commander has never lost a duel, Byung-ho replied. He has defeated warriors from species far more dangerous than humans appear to be. Appear to be, Minji repeated. That is the key phrase, is it not? Meanwhile, aboard the human transport ship, Ji-won was going through his preparations. He stood in the small cargo bay that doubled as exercise space, wearing simple athletic clothing. Haerin, his engineer, and the only other person on the ship watched from the doorway. Are you sure about this? Haerin asked. She was short and stocky, with strong hands from years of working with machinery. The Krethians are famous warriors. That commander looked like he could tear through a steel door. Probably could, Ji-won agreed. He was doing slow, controlled stretches, moving through a sequence he had practiced thousands of times. His breathing was steady and deep. Then why did you accept? Haerin demanded. We could have run. We could have called for help. Running would not solve anything, Ji-won said. He moved into a different stretch, feeling his muscles warm and loosen. The Krethians would just find another human to bully, and calling for help would make us look weak. Better to face this now. But you could die, Haerin said. Ji-won paused and looked at her. I could, but I probably will not. I have been training since I was 6 years old. Martial arts, boxing, wrestling, endurance running. I know how to fight, Haerin. More importantly, I know how to not quit. The commander is twice your size, Haerin pointed out. Size is not everything, Ji-won replied. He began a series of breathing exercises, filling his lungs completely and then exhaling slowly. In fact, being bigger can be a disadvantage. It takes more energy to move a larger body, more oxygen to feed larger muscles. The bigger they are, the faster they tire. Haerin watched him go through his routine. To her, it looked almost meditative. Ji-won moved with practiced ease, never rushing, never straining. His focus was complete. What is your plan? She asked. Survive the initial assault, Ji-won said. The Krethian will come at me hard and fast. He will try to end the fight quickly with overwhelming force. That is what warriors like him always do. They rely on intimidation and power. And if you survive the initial assault, then I wear him down. I make him work for every second. I make him use up all his energy while I conserve mine. Eventually he will slow down. His movements will become sluggish. His reactions will dull, and then I will have my chance. You make it sound simple, Haerin said. It is not simple, Ji-won admitted, but it is straightforward. Endurance beats strength if the fight lasts long enough, and I can make it last. He finished his stretches and began shadow boxing, throwing punches and combinations at invisible opponents. His movements were fluid and economical. No wasted motion, no unnecessary flourishes. Every strike had a purpose. The commander called you prey, Haerin said. He said humans look weak. Ji-won smiled slightly. Let him think that. Predators hunt prey, but humans are not prey. We are not predators either, not in the traditional sense. We are something else, something that most species do not understand. What are we then? Haerin asked. Survivors, Ji-won said. Our ancestors survived ice ages and droughts. They survived predators that were bigger, faster, and stronger. They survived diseases and famines and wars. We come from a long line of people who simply refuse to die. He stopped shadowboxing and looked at Haerin. That is what the commander does not understand. He thinks this is about strength. But it is really about will, and humans have more will than any species in the galaxy. The ship's computer chimed, indicating it was time to depart for the abandoned station. Well, Haerin said, I hope you are right. So do I, Ji-won said with a small smile. So do I. Both ships made their way to the meeting point. The abandoned Meridian station hung in the darkness of space, a relic from a forgotten era. It had been a trading post once, but now it was empty and cold, its lights long since extinguished. The station's cargo bay would serve as their arena. As they approached, neither side spoke. The Creathians were confident. The human was focused. In less than an hour, they would meet. In less than an hour, Commander Taeyang would learn what it meant to fight a human. The cargo bay of Meridian Station was vast and empty. Centuries of neglect had left it cold and dark, illuminated only by the emergency lighting that still functioned along the walls. The floor was metal grating, giving it good traction. The ceiling stretched up 40 feet, supported by massive girders. It was perfect for what was about to happen. Ji-won entered first, walking through the airlock in his simple athletic wear. He carried no weapons, no armor, nothing except a small water bottle clipped to his belt. He moved to the center of the bay and began stretching again, keeping his muscles warm and loose. Moments later, the opposite airlock opened. Commander Taeyang strode in, and the difference was striking. He wore combat armor, though it was lighter than what he had worn on the ship. The armor covered his vital areas but left his arms and legs free to move. It was dark green and battle-scarred, marked with symbols that probably represented his victories. Behind him came Byung-ho and Minji, who would serve as witnesses. Hae-rin followed Ji-won into the bay, her face tight with worry. She took up a position near the wall, standing across from the Creathian officers. Taeyang walked to the center of the bay. Up close, his size was even more impressive. He stood at least 2 feet taller than Ji-won and probably weighed 3 times as much. His arms were thick with muscle, and his hands ended in short but sharp claws. The natural bone armor on his face and forearms made him look almost invincible. "You came," Taeyang said. "I thought perhaps you would flee." "I said I would be here," Ji-won replied calmly. "I keep my word. Admirable for prey." Taeyang began his own warm-up, rolling his massive shoulders and flexing his arms. "The rules are simple. We fight until one of us yields or cannot continue. No weapons beyond our own bodies. No interference from our companions." He smiled, showing those sharp teeth again. "Do you understand?" "I understand," Ji-won said. "Good." Taeyang settled into a combat stance. It was aggressive and forward-leaning, designed for explosive attacks. "Begin whenever you are ready to meet your defeat." Ji-won took a deep breath and settled into his own stance. It was more neutral, balanced, ready to move in any direction. His hands were up but not tense. His breathing remained steady. "Ready," Ji-won said. Taeyang exploded forward with terrifying speed. For something so large, he moved like lightning. His first strike was a straight punch aimed at Ji-won's head, thrown with enough force to shatter concrete. Ji-won slipped to the side, the massive fist passing inches from his face. He felt the air pressure from the punch. It would have ended the fight instantly if it had connected. But it did not connect. Taeyang followed up immediately with a sweeping kick. Ji-won stepped back, feeling the leg whistle past his midsection. The commander's attacks were powerful and precise, each one capable of causing devastating damage. But Ji-won had trained for this. He had spent years learning to read opponents, to anticipate their movements, to stay just out of reach. For the first 30 seconds, Ji-won only defended. He dodged, blocked, and moved, learning Taeyang's rhythm and patterns. The commander was fast for his size, but his attacks followed predictable sequences. Punch, kick, grab, punch, punch, kick. Each combination was designed to overwhelm an opponent quickly, but Ji-won was not overwhelmed. He stayed calm, his breathing controlled, his movements economical. Every dodge was just enough to avoid the strike. No wasted energy, no panic. Taeyang's eyes narrowed. The human was more agile than expected. Time to change tactics. He lunged forward and grabbed for Ji-won with both hands, trying to get him in a crushing bear hug. Ji-won ducked under the grab and rolled to the side. As he came up, he threw his first counter-strike, a quick jab to Taeyang's ribs. It was not a powerful blow, just a testing strike. His fist connected with the armor and he felt the resistance. The armor was tough but not impenetrable. Taeyang barely seemed to notice the strike. He spun around and launched another series of attacks. This time his strikes were faster, harder, more aggressive. He was trying to use his superior strength and speed to simply overpower the human. One punch got through Ji-won's defense, catching him on the shoulder. The impact sent him stumbling backward and pain exploded through his arm. It felt like being hit by a sledgehammer. Ji-won gritted his teeth and kept moving, shaking off the pain. His shoulder would bruise badly, maybe even crack, but it was not broken. He could still fight. Taeyang pressed his advantage, seeing the human's pain. He drove forward with a flurry of strikes, each one aimed to finish the fight. But Ji-won absorbed the punishment and continued to move. Some blows he dodged. Some he blocked. Some he took on his arms and shoulders, protecting his head and vital organs. Against the wall, Byung-ho watched with growing concern. "He should have fallen by now," he said to Minji. "The commander is landing solid hits." "But he is not falling," Minji observed. "Look at his breathing. It is still controlled. He is managing his energy." It was true. Despite taking several powerful hits, Ji-won's breathing remained steady. In through the nose, out through the mouth, deep and rhythmic. He was not panicking. He was not fading. He was enduring. A full minute passed, then 2. Taeyang was starting to breathe harder now. His attacks were still powerful, but there was a slight decrease in speed. The explosive initial assault was taking its toll on his energy reserves. Ji-won noticed the change immediately. The commander's recovery time between combinations was getting longer. Just a fraction of a second, but it was there. The human began to counter more frequently, throwing quick strikes at exposed areas. Jabs to the ribs, hooks to the sides, low kicks to the thighs. None of them were devastating, but they were adding up. Taeyang tried another technique. He generated a pulse of bioelectricity, a signature ability of his species. The energy crackled across his armor and discharged toward Ji-won. It was designed to paralyze opponents, overloading their nervous systems. The electricity hit Ji-won full force. His muscles seized up and his body went rigid. For a moment, he could not move. Taeyang rushed forward to capitalize on the opening. But before the commander could land his strike, Ji-won's body began responding again. The paralysis effect should have lasted at least 10 seconds. It lasted 3. The human's nervous system adapted quickly, rerouting signals and compensating for the disruption. Ji-won dropped low and swept Taeyang's legs. The massive Krethian stumbled but did not fall. Ji-won followed up with a hard elbow strike to the commander's knee joint, one of the few areas not protected by armor or natural plating. Taeyang growled in pain and lashed out with a backhand that caught Ji-won across the chest. The human flew backward and hit the ground hard, rolling several times before coming to a stop. He lay there for a moment, gasping. "Stay down," Taeyang commanded, breathing heavily. "You have fought well for prey. There is no shame in yielding now." Ji-won pushed himself up to his knees, then to his feet. His chest hurt where the backhand had landed, and he was pretty sure he had cracked a rib. But he was still standing, still breathing, still fighting. "Not yet," Ji-won said. His voice was strained but determined. Taeyang stared at the human in disbelief. Any other species would be unconscious or dead by now, but this human just kept getting back up. The commander felt something he had not experienced in years. Uncertainty. "What are you?" Taeyang asked. Ji-won settled back into his stance despite the pain. "Human," he said simply. The fight continued. 5 minutes became 10. 10 became 15. The cargo bay echoed with the sounds of combat. Flesh hitting armor, feet scuffing on metal grating, heavy breathing from both combatants, but the dynamic was shifting. Taeyang's movements were slowing down noticeably now. His strike still had power, but his recovery time was increasing. He was breathing hard, almost gasping. Sweat dripped from his face. Ji-won was battered and bruised. Blood ran from a cut above his eye. His ribs ached with every breath. His arms were covered in purple bruises. But his breathing, while heavy, was still controlled. His movements, while slower, were still precise. He was managing his pain, compartmentalizing it, pushing it to the back of his mind where it could not distract him. This was what he had trained for. This was what humans did. They endured. They persisted. They simply refused to quit. And as the fight entered its 20th minute, Taeyang began to realize that he might have made a terrible mistake. 25 minutes into the duel, Commander Taeyang was struggling. His arms felt like lead weights. Every breath burned in his lungs. His legs trembled beneath him. This should not be happening. He was the strongest warrior in the Krathian fleet. He had defeated opponents from 50 different species. He had never, ever been pushed this far in a fight. Across from him, the human still stood. Ji-won looked terrible. His face was swollen and bloody. His body was covered in bruises. His breathing was labored. But his eyes were clear and focused. He was still ready to fight. "How?" Taeyang gasped out. "How are you still standing?" Ji-won wiped blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. Because I choose to, he said. His voice was hoarse but steady. That is what humans do. We choose to keep going. Impossible, Taeyang said. No species has this kind of endurance. You are wrong, Ji-won replied. He began to circle slowly, forcing the exhausted Krethian to turn and follow him. My species does. We evolved on a planet where everything wanted to kill us, predators, diseases, weather. Other humans. We survived because we could outlast all of them. Taeyang tried to launch another attack, but his movements were sluggish now. Ji-won easily sidestepped and countered with a hard punch to the commander's kidney area. Even through the armor, the impact made Taeyang grunt in pain. We are persistence hunters, Ji-won continued, his voice taking on a lecturing tone even as he fought. Do you know what that means? It means we chased our prey until it could not run anymore. For hours, for days if necessary. We just kept coming, kept following, kept pursuing. Eventually, the prey would collapse from exhaustion, and then we would eat. He threw another combination of strikes. Taeyang tried to block but was too slow. The hits landed on his arms, his sides, his legs. None were powerful enough to cause serious damage, but they did not need to be. They were wearing him down piece by piece. You thought this would be quick, Ji-won said. You thought you would overwhelm me with strength and power. That works against most species, but not humans. The longer a fight goes, the more dangerous we become, because we can fight forever if we need to. Taeyang dropped to one knee, his strength finally failing. He tried to stand but could not. His muscles simply would not respond anymore. He looked up at the human, his expression a mixture of shock and respect. I yield, Taeyang said quietly. What? Ji-won asked. I did not hear you. I said I yield, Taeyang repeated louder this time. The words were bitter, but he spoke them clearly. You have won, human. Ji-won stepped back and lowered his hands. Relief flooded through him. The fight was over. He had won. More importantly, he had survived. Can you stand? Ji-won asked. No, Taeyang admitted. My legs will not support me. Byung-ho and Minji rushed forward to help their commander. They supported his weight and helped him to his feet. Though he leaned heavily on them, Hyrin ran to Ji-won, her face filled with concern. Are you all right? She asked, examining his injuries. I will live, Ji-won said, though I am going to be very sore tomorrow. He looked at Taeyang. You fought well, Commander. You are strong and skilled, but not strong enough, Taeyang said. You are a better warrior than I am. No, Ji-won said, shaking his head. I am not a better warrior. You have more power, more speed, more training. But humans have something else. We have stubbornness. We have the ability to suffer and keep going. That is our strength. Minji looked at Ji-won with newfound respect. I tried to warn the commander, she said. I researched your species. I saw the data about persistence hunting, about your endurance capabilities, but I did not truly understand what it meant until now. Most species do not understand, Ji-won said. They look at us and see soft skin, no natural weapons, no obvious advantages. They think we are weak, but weakness and strength are not always what they seem. Byung-ho helped Taeyang sit down on a cargo container. The commander's breathing was still labored, but it was slowly returning to normal. How long could you have continued? Byung-ho asked Ji-won. Ji-won considered the question honestly. Another hour, maybe 2. My injuries would have slowed me down eventually, but I could have kept fighting for a long time. 2 hours, Taeyang repeated in disbelief. I could barely last 30 minutes. Your species evolved for short, decisive battles, Ji-won explained. Maximum power in minimum time. That is an excellent strategy for most situations. But humans evolved for different conditions. We had to chase prey across long distances. We had to work all day in harsh conditions. Our bodies adapted to sustained effort rather than explosive power. It is a terrifying adaptation, Minji said quietly. A species that simply will not stop. That cannot be exhausted. That refuses to quit no matter how much damage they take. We can be exhausted, Ji-won corrected. We are not invincible, but it takes a very long time, and we are very good at managing our pain and fatigue. Taeyang looked at his hands. They were still shaking from exhaustion. I have been a fool, he said. I saw what I wanted to see. Prey instead of a predator, weakness instead of strength. I dismissed your species based on appearance alone. To be fair, most species make that mistake, Ji-won said. We are used to being underestimated. In a way, it is an advantage. People do not take us seriously until it is too late. A tactical advantage, Minji agreed. If everyone assumes you are weak, they do not prepare properly. They do not take precautions. They make mistakes, like challenging a human to single combat without researching them first, Byung-ho said, looking pointedly at Tai Yang. The commander had the grace to look embarrassed. Yes, like that. He looked up at Ji-won. I owe you an apology, human. I called you prey. I was disrespectful and arrogant. You have proven yourself to be a formidable opponent. Ji-won nodded in acknowledgement. Apology accepted. And for what it is worth, you are one of the toughest opponents I have ever faced. If this fight had ended in the first 5 minutes like you planned, I would have lost badly. But it did not end in 5 minutes, Tae Yang said. And that is the lesson, is it not? Against humans, the fight will never end quickly. You will drag it out, make it a war of attrition, and eventually outlast your opponent. That is our strategy, Ji-won confirmed. We do not try to win fast. We try to win eventually, and we are very patient. Hae-rin finished examining Ji-won's injuries as best she could without proper medical equipment. You need medical attention, she said. Some of these injuries are serious. So do I, Tae-yang admitted. My ship has medical facilities. You are welcome to use them. Ji-won hesitated. Is that appropriate? We were enemies 30 minutes ago. We were, Tae-yang agreed. But you won the duel fairly. According to our agreement, you have earned safe passage. Besides, I find myself curious about your species. I would like to learn more. Perhaps over medical treatment we can talk. Ji-won considered this, then nodded. All right. I accept your offer. He looked at the Crethean commander with something approaching respect. You know, if you had approached us peacefully instead of trying to intimidate us, we could have avoided all of this. Yes, Tae Yang said quietly. I am beginning to understand that. Sometimes the biggest mistake is not the fight itself, but starting the fight in the first place. Both groups made their way slowly back to the Crethean warship. The duel was over. The human had won. But more importantly, both sides had learned something valuable. The Cretheans learned not to judge species by appearance, and Ji-won learned that even the proudest warriors could admit when they were wrong. The medical bay on the Crethean warship was impressive. Advanced equipment lined the walls and healing pods stood ready to treat serious injuries. Tae Yang lay in one pod while Ji-won occupied another. Microscopic medical nanites worked on repairing their damaged bodies, knitting broken bones and healing torn muscles. The nanites will have you both functional in a few hours, the medical officer said. She was a smaller Crethean, specialized in healing rather than combat. Full recovery will take about 3 days. 3 days, Ji-won repeated. He felt the nanites working, a strange tingling sensation throughout his body. The pain was already diminishing. Your medical technology is impressive. It needs to be, Tae Yang said from his pod. Cretheans are warriors. We get injured frequently. Our scientists developed advanced healing technology out of necessity. While they recovered, Minji arrived carrying a data pad. Her expression was serious, almost troubled. Commander, I have completed a full analysis of humanity based on all available data. You need to see this. What did you find? Tae Yang asked. Minji pulled up information on a holographic display so everyone could see. Humans come from a planet called Earth. It is a Class 4 world, as we already knew. But what the classification does not tell you is how hostile that planet actually is. She brought up an image of Earth. It looked beautiful from space, blue and green and white. This planet has experienced 5 major extinction events in its history. Each time, most life was wiped out. But life kept coming back. It adapted. It evolved. It persisted. Humans evolved during the most recent ice ages, Minji continued. Their ancestors survived in environments that would kill most species. They had no fur for warmth, no thick hide for protection, no claws or fangs for hunting. They survived through intelligence, cooperation, and sheer stubbornness. Byung-ho had joined them and was listening intently. What about their physiology? What makes them so resilient? Several things, Minji said. First, their skeletal structure. Human bones are dense but have some flexibility. They can absorb significant impact without breaking. Second, their muscular system. They have an excellent balance of strength and endurance. Third, their cardiovascular system. Their heart and lungs work together with remarkable efficiency. They can sustain high levels of activity for extended periods. She pulled up more data. But the most interesting feature is their nervous system. Humans have something called redundant neural pathways. If one pathway is damaged or disrupted, signals can be rerouted through other pathways. That is why the commander's bioelectric attack only paralyzed Ji-Wan for 3 seconds instead of the expected 10. Adaptive physiology, Taeyang said quietly. They are built to survive almost anything. There is more, Minji said. I accessed human historical records. Commander, they have been fighting wars on their own planet for their entire recorded history. Not just tribal conflicts, but massive wars involving millions of soldiers. Wars that lasted for years, sometimes decades. She brought up images and data from human history. They fought through trenches in toxic mud. They battled in frozen wastelands and burning deserts. They developed weapons of terrible power, and then kept fighting even when those weapons were used against them. They endured unimaginable hardships and kept going. They sound insane, Byung-ho said. Or incredibly determined, Ji-Won said from his pod. We do not see it as insanity. We see it as survival. When everything is trying to kill you, you learn to be tough. You learn to never quit. And now you are spreading across the galaxy, Minji said. She brought up a star map showing human colonies. In just 2 centuries of spaceflight, you have established settlements in 18 star systems. Many of these systems were considered too hostile for colonization by other species. High radiation worlds, extreme temperature variations, thin atmospheres, hostile wildlife. Minji listed them off. You go to places other species avoid and you make them work. You adapt to conditions that would kill others. Taeyang listened to all this with growing concern. I did not just challenge a human today, he said slowly. I announced humanity's presence to the galaxy. I showed everyone that humans are here and that they are dangerous. Is that a problem? Hae-Rin asked. She had been standing quietly in the corner, but now she spoke up. It could be, Byung-ho said. There are many aggressive species in the galaxy. Some will see humans as a threat. Some will want to test themselves against this new warrior race. And if they make the same mistake the commander made, if they underestimate humanity, the results could be catastrophic. You are worried about war, Ji-Won said. It was not a question. Yes, Taeyang admitted. I am worried about war. Because if someone declares war on humanity without understanding what you are, without understanding that you will never stop fighting, it will not end well. For anyone. We do not want war, Ji-Won said firmly. Humans have seen enough war on our own world. We came to the stars hoping to find peace, to meet other species, to trade and learn and grow together. But you will fight if you have to, Minji said. Yes, Ji-Won confirmed. We will fight if we have to. We do not start wars, but we finish them. That is another thing humans are very good at. Taeyang was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a decision. We need to prevent that war before it starts. The Crethean Empire needs to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity immediately. We need to make it clear to the galaxy that humans are under our protection. Your protection? Hae-Rin asked, sounding skeptical. Alliance, then, Taeyang corrected. Partnership. Whatever term you prefer. The point is that the Crethean Empire is one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. If we announce that we respect humanity, that we view them as equals, other species will think twice before attacking. And what do you get out of this alliance? Ji-Won asked carefully. Friends, Taeyang said simply. Or at least not enemies. After today, I understand that having humanity as an enemy would be a disaster. Better to have you as friends. Better to learn from you. Better to stand together than to stand opposed. I cannot make that decision alone, Ji-Won said. I am just a transport pilot. Diplomatic agreements require approval from Earth Command. Then I will send an official delegation to Earth, Taeyang said. I will explain what happened here today. I will tell them that I challenged a human and learned a valuable lesson. I will recommend that the Crethean Empire establish formal diplomatic ties with humanity. And I will recommend that Earth accept, Ji-Won said. I think this could be the beginning of something good. You Crethians are strong and honorable. We could learn much from each other. Minji looked at both of them. From a duel to an alliance, that is quite a transformation. Sometimes enemies become friends, Taeyang said. Sometimes it takes a fight to understand each other. Today I learned that humans are not prey. They are not weak. They are survivors. Possibly the greatest survivors in the galaxy. That is worthy of respect. The medical officer returned to check on their progress. The nanites have completed the critical repairs. You both should rest now. Full mobility will return in a few hours. As Ji-Won drifted off to sleep, he thought about everything that had happened. He had come here expecting to fight and possibly die. Instead, he had found respect and understanding. He had shown the Krethians what humanity was capable of, and perhaps, just perhaps, he had helped prevent a war before it could begin. Several hours later, Ji-won woke to find his injuries had healed remarkably well. He could move without pain. Taeyang was already awake, sitting up in his pod and reviewing reports. "Ready to go home?" the commander asked. "Yes," Ji-won said. "I still have supplies to deliver." "My fleet will escort you to your destination," Taeyang said. "Full honors. It is the least we can do," Ji-won smiled. "Thank you, Commander." "Thank you, Ji-won," Taeyang replied. "Today you taught me humility. You taught me not to judge based on appearances. You taught me that the strongest warrior is not always the one with the most power, but the one who refuses to quit. These are valuable lessons." As Ji-won and Hai-Rin returned to their ship, 3 Krethian warships took up escort positions around them. They flew in formation all the way to the mining colonies, announcing to anyone watching that the human vessel was under Krethian protection. Word of the duel spread quickly through the galaxy. Commander Taeyang, the strongest warrior in the Krethian Empire, had been defeated by a human in single combat. The news shocked many species. Some were frightened, some were curious, some were respectful. But all of them now knew that humanity was not to be underestimated, and Ji-won, who had just wanted to deliver his cargo and go home, became a symbol of human persistence, a symbol of human determination, a symbol of what happens when you confront a human and make the mistake of thinking they are weak. It was, as the title suggested, a big mistake. But it was also a mistake that led to understanding, respect, and friendship between 2 very different species. Sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the best outcomes. Sometimes a fight is the first step toward peace. And sometimes, just sometimes, the strongest warrior in the galaxy learns that strength comes in many forms.